Welcome to Sports Bytes with your host, Chris Joseph. Chris Joseph, are you a sports fanatic who loves the thrill of the game and the delicious food that accompanies it?
And then they had chicken fingers, exotic chicken fingers.
Join us as we dive into the world of sports and the delectable bites that make the experience even better. Whether you're in the stadium, tailgating, or watching from the comfort of your home, get ready to satisfy your sports cravings with Chris Joseph on Sports Bytes. Let's dig in.
Oh, good Friday night, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great time out there. And welcome into Friday night, football Friday night here on Sports Bytes podcast, right? I hope you guys are doing great. Hope you're enjoying. I hope you had a great Halloween. There's a lot we can get into. We're going to talk about today. I've got my give them a six picks, talk about 6 games that I'm going to talk about, kind of give you a little preview of what I think is going to happen, give you my lock of the week. We're going to talk about some really cool new uniforms that are coming out for this weekend, some that are not very cool. Oklahoma State, I'm talking to you. And also the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, has just released a document basically admonishing those that are feigning injuries, right? We've seen Ole Miss do it. Hell, even Oklahoma's done it. We've seen that a couple times, right? We'll go over that. Like I said, we'll talk about some of the games that are going to be big this weekend. We got one game tonight. Obviously, you got Boise State, San Diego State. I don't think Boise State has any problems. I think Ashton Genty and those guys, they just keep on doing what they're doing, right? They just keep on doing. That'll be a late kick. I say late kick, 7 o'clock, so it's kind of early for them. But big slate of games tomorrow. Of course, the biggest one, Ohio State, Penn State. People are talking about that. We'll get into break that down. But I do want to get into the feigning injuries, right? And this came out from Greg Sankey today. And with it, he's saying this goes to all SEC athletic directors, SEC football coaches, from Greg Sankey. Feigned injuries. As plainly as it can be stated, stop any and all activity related to faking injuries to create timeouts. I'll give you a little bit about what he said, right? So the NCAA football playing rules assigned to the national coordinator for football officiating the responsibility for determining if a fainted injury has occurred, right? The national coordinator is responsible for evaluating videos submitted, reviewed, and here's what becomes the problem, okay, so moving forward, this is from Greg Sankey. He says, moving forward, I will consider a feigned injury to have been determined when the national coordinator states it's more likely than not that a feigned injury occurred, okay? Well, I get it. So now you're sitting there, that you're saying you don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. Hell, I'm an Oklahoma fan. I hated seeing it against Ole Miss the other day. I don't like it, right? Your team should be prepared to compete fairly under the rules of the game. So Greg Sankey's taking shots at the SEC and saying, look, guys, knock this crap off, all right? Knock it off. Your team says when defending against the hurry-up offense, you are to use the allocated team timeouts if you need to stop play, or you may allow the play to continue with the personnel and defensive play call in place. When on offense, if the play clock is running out, you are to use a timeout or accept a delay of game. So again, they're making chat. How you doing? I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. I'm live in TikTok. I'm live on YouTube. We're just having a good time. We're talking Friday. We're talking football. I got a little bourbon here. I'm gonna drink a little bit of bourbon. Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, I hope everybody's having a really good Friday night. Hope you had a good Halloween last night, right? So the second page of this letter stated, as the football playing rules state, an injured player must be given the benefit of the doubt. That's the one question that people are going to ask is how can you determine? Now, we've seen a lot of like the Alabama-Tennessee game where the Alabama coach is pushing a player down. There's clips of Lane Kiffin telling people to go down. I mean, you see it, right? And again, I don't like it. I mean, it goes back to it's been happening for Myles Garrett when he was at Texas A&M. Did it in a game against Oklahoma, right? Myles Garrett did it, but it's gone to a point now where everyone's running that hurry up. So it said, moving forward, if circumstances warrant the national coordinator's review of a possible feigned injury, the play will be submitted from the SEC office to the national coordinator for review. Now, the SEC office right down here in Birmingham. I live in Birmingham. It's right down there across from Protective Stadium where UAB and Tulsa are going to play tomorrow. I'll be covering that game. And it says, if the national coordinator determines that a feigned injury has occurred, that it is more likely than not that a feigned injury occurred, that a player attempted to feign an injury, or any other general statement from the national coordinator establishing the probability of a feigned injury, I will apply the agreed upon penalties as follows. So Greg Sankey comes out and he goes, all right, if you do it, this is what you're going to happen. For the first offense, the head coach will receive a public reprimand and a financial penalty of $50,000. Now, again, some of these coaches, $50,000, that's a slap on the wrist. They move on, right? For a team's second feigned injury finding, right? For the second one, the head coach will receive a public reprimand. Again, what does public reprimand? Hey, guys, don't do that. Lane Kiffin, you should have done that. Brent Venables, you shouldn't have done that. I don't get the public reprimand. A financial penalty of $100,000 will be assessed. Okay, great. For the third and subsequent feigned injuries, the coach will receive a public reprimand. Again, don't do that. Don't be a bad boy. A team's third finding will result in suspension of the head coach for the team's next contest. So Greg Sankey has come out and said, look, don't go there. Don't go there. If any other staff members found to have been involved in signaling, encouraging, or directing a player to feign an injury, the individual will be subject to the same accountability measures presented in this memorandum, including public reprimand, financial penalties, and suspension. If a student athlete is cited for a feigned injury, the student athlete may also be subject to a public reprimand. Okay. I don't know. It's just, and then at the very end, it says play football. Stop the feigned injury nonsense. Crazy. But Greg Sankey came out and said, no more of this crap, guys. No more of this crap. We're not going to have it. You're ruining the game. And we saw it. Like I said, watching Oklahoma Ole Miss game last week, you saw it. I hate it. I hate seeing that. You know, just get out there and play football. Play football, man. Terrible stuff. I did mention the thought about some Navy or some new uniforms. Whew. What about what Army's going to wear against Air Force? Have you seen the skull and crossbones? It's probably one of the toughest uniforms I've seen. And Army, Navy, Air Force always usually do a pretty good job. I mean, the Navy dress blues to honor the U.S. Marine Corps were phenomenal. Air Force always has some really cool helmets, but the Army helmet, the black helmet with the kind of whitewash, skull and crossbones, it's fucking awesome. I love it. They play Air Force this weekend. Now, Army will also have a game against Notre Dame coming up. See if they could do what Navy couldn't do, holding on to the ball. Now, Bailey at running back there is a little more physical than what Blake Horvath was at Navy. And when I was at a press conference, I've said this before, when I was at the UAB press conference a couple of weeks ago talking with Trent Dilfer, he brought up, we were talking about the quarterbacks. And I said, what's the difference? And he said, Blake Horvath is like Lamar Jackson. Bailey from Army is like trying to prepare for Cam Newton. So it's a lot of stuff going on. Chat, a lot of people hopping in. Hope you guys are doing good, man. Share the live, make a comment, help that goal come up, trying to get up to 200 followers on here. Be sure you follow all the content that I do. I do a lot of poll questions. I do some food reviews, some cooking, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, it was crazy. Crazy. But let's look here. And Oklahoma State, what in the wicked wetch of the West, humble bumble crumble stuff is this that you're that you're wearing, right? It's terrible. What is that? It says the striped socks. I don't get it. The striped arm sleeves. It looks like a regular jersey almost, and then the weird helmet with the gray. I don't get it. I don't get it. But again, that's Oklahoma State. They do a lot of crazy stuff, but that uniform that Oklahoma State's wearing right now for this week, and again, I thought it might have been a hoax, but it's not. It's not. They actually do. They're actually wearing it this weekend, but yeah, it's not good for them. So if you want to see here, talking about some of the games this weekend, right? I do want to say this to all Dodger fans out there. Congratulations, guys! You won the World Series. You beat the New York Yankees. Those two jamokes that were on the foul line ripping the ball. There's no place for that. There's no place for that at all. You don't need that. But I will tell you what's been a lot of fun. See that W? Washington, they're playing extremely well this year. I love that. They play the Giants this weekend, 6-2. It'll be I can't wait for this weekend, because if Oklahoma or if Washington can make it 7-2, God, it's been a long time since Washington has been there. But talking about some of the games coming up this weekend, right? There's some interesting games, not so interesting games. I want to talk a little bit about Oregon and Michigan. Okay. Temperature, people are like, oh, well, they're going to where it's colder. And I mean, I think it's only like 6 degrees colder in Ann Arbor than what it is in Eugene, Oregon. So it's and stop. Eugene, Oregon gets cold. But if you're a Michigan fan and that's your last resort is to say, oh, it's weather, they haven't played in this weather, stop. Just because you have quarterbacks that can't complete a forward pass, you can't go there. Dylan Gabriel is playing exceptionally well. Dylan Gabriel is what everyone thought Dylan Gabriel is. When he was at Central Florida, when he was at Oklahoma, he just continues to do what he does, right? He's moving up the charts in all categories for touchdowns, yards, everything. He's going to be one of the most decorated quarterbacks when he graduates. But it's in the big house. Okay, it's in the big house. But what I'm surprised at is how bad the Michigan defense has been this year. Everyone talked about how great it was supposed to be, and it really hasn't been that great, right? Hasn't been that great. And so if you look at the spread, Oregon's favored by 14.5. It opened at 15.5, right? The money line for Michigan is plus 475. Whew. Enticing, but no. The over-under at 44.5. We'll see. We'll see. But this game, I don't think Michigan has the bullets in the gun to compete with Oregon. I think everything that Oregon brings to the table, right? I think they're just too good. James at running back is too good. Ted Johnson at wide receiver is just way too good. Just way too good. And now the defending national champion could be sitting there at 5-4, 3-3 in the Big Ten Conference. Woo, man. You're the defending champion. That seat for Sharon Moore is getting real hot. If you're the defending champion, and now you're sitting at 5-4. Now for Michigan, the remaining way, I believe they're going to make it to a bowl game. I say that. They've got to go to Indiana, which we all know how well Indiana's playing. Kurt Cignetti, Curtis Rourke, who's going to be back this weekend, a swarming defense. They've got to go in Bloomington. But Michigan's got to go to Indiana. Northwestern, that should be the one that they win, right? I think they beat Northwestern. Michigan makes a bowl game, and they have the game against Ohio State to end the year on the 30th of November. But yeah, I don't see it for Michigan as far as being really a threat against Oregon. Oregon, if you look at the remainder of their schedule, Oregon's got Maryland, at Wisconsin, and Washington, and they beat up Washington quite a bit. So I think with that, it's going to be kind of easy for them to move forward in that. But in this one, I like the Ducks minus the 14.5. I know it's a lot of points on the road, but I like the Ducks minus the 14.5. So staying in the Big Ten, the big one, Ohio State, Penn State. All right, Ohio State, Penn State. Man, I don't know. I still don't buy Penn State. I still don't buy them. And I'm not sold on Will Howard being the leading quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't buy that. But what I don't buy is Penn State. Now, look, I'll preface this. Penn State has probably one of the best, if not the best, tight end in the country in Tyler Warren, number 44. That dude can do everything. Everything. He's got 44 catches, 559 yards, 4 touchdowns. He snapped the ball and mossed people. Like he's out there. Chat over in TikTok. How you doing? TikTok live. I'm on YouTube live at Sports Bytes Podcast. What I'd love to try to do is, so I'm on Podbean. Podbean is a place that moves out all the podcasts, right? It'll take it to Apple Podcasts. It'll take it to, Spotify, iHeart, all that. But Podbean has a feature where if you go on and you look up Sports Bytes Podcast, right? BYTES. Look up the Sports Bytes Podcast. You can actually find the podcast and you can call in. I love it. As like I said, I've said before, as a former radio host, I love caller-driven interactive sports talk. I love it. I love it. That's why I love it. The chat, everything that's going on. I love that. So if you're on TikTok, go ahead, hit that like button, share the live. Also, go to YouTube, guys, at Sports Bytes Podcast. Click subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it's going to help me out tremendously. Now, more about this game, Ohio State, Penn State. It's in Penn State, right? It's in Happy Valley. It's the 11 a.m. kickoff. Fox is going to be there with their big noon kickoff. Quinshawn Judkins, and Henderson, the two-headed running back threat for Ohio State. I want to believe in Penn State, but I can't. I can't. If you look at it, I think Ohio State's been tested the most with their road game, even though they lost. But with their road game against Oregon, I think they had a little bit better competition to where if you look at, Penn State, who have they played? Who has Penn State played? West Virginia, not as good as everyone thought they were going to be. Bowling Green actually had the lead on them in Happy Valley. Kent State, the Illini, UCLA, USC, and they were trailing in that game. Wisconsin, now they got to go. Now they play Ohio State. And I just think, again, Big Game James is going to show up, and I just think Penn State gets beaten this one. I like Ohio State to beat Penn State in this Big Ten battle, right? I can't get on board. I can't get on board with Penn State. It's just you think about it. I've picked them too many times to do better than what they've done, but they're not that team. I got Ohio State winning that game. A game in the ACC that's going to be a lot of fun. Duke at Miami. So you got Malik Neighbors, right? Malik Murphy, who's the quarterback for Duke, was at Texas, from California, now all the way on the East Coast at Duke. Like I said, I think he looks like a Madden creative player. He's huge, right? Big old boy. Playing against Miami. Everyone's dogging Miami because they haven't played anybody this year. All you can do is beat the teams that are on your schedule, right? And Miami's done a very good job at that. Whether they've been trailing, fought back, Miami is still undefeated. There's a lot of teams out there that wish they were 8-0 and 4-0 in conference. Now they got to go to the Hard Rock Stadium, and Miami's one of those places that when the football team is good, then the stadium's hopping, right? The stadium's hopping. But when it's not good, it's pretty empty. But Malik Murphy has had a really good year. 1,796 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Cam Ward, again, you think about Cam Ward's story from Incarnate Word to Washington State to the U. Now, it is funny when you see the ESPN predictor 90.7% for Miami to win this game. So they don't believe Duke can do it. They don't believe Duke can do it. I think Duke has a better chance because of Malik Murphy. They had a chance to knock off SMU last week, drop that one. I don't understand the Duke game or the Georgia Tech game. But I like Malik Murphy. If they can get the ball going with Star Thomas, the running back, the Louisiana senior, get that going. I think they're going to be just fine. I guess my wife's home. The dog's barking. Can I hear that? But this one is going to come down to turnovers, I think. You talk about turnovers in the game. This one here with Miami and Duke, Cam Ward's going to play great. He's going to make plays. At the Philly special for him last week. Malik Murphy, if Malik Murphy can stay upright, if Malik Murphy can create some with his legs, I think it's going to be a problem. Now, the spread in this one now, the over-under is 54.5. I would take the over all day. All day, right? I would take that all day. The spread itself opened at 21. It's now at 20.5. I'd take Duke plus the 20.5. I think it's going to be closer than what some people think. But I think Miami wins the game. Money line on Miami is minus 1,800. Bro, you got to spend $1,800 to win 100? No. I would love that money line on Duke plus 900. Just give me the money line. Throw a hundo down, walk away with a stack. Okay. I'm in, man. I'm in. I'd probably play the money line. No, actually, I'd play getting the 20 points. I think just with the 20 points is going to be too much for Miami to kind of overcome. But I think they win. I do think they win. Should be an entertaining game. Staying in the ACC's got all the games this weekend. Pitt and SMU. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year that we're sitting here looking at week 10 of the NCAA college football season, and Pitt SMU is a big game. It's a crucial game for the ACC. And again, it's one of the only games this weekend where both teams are ranked. 7 o'clock, ACC Network. Pitt goes to Gerald J. Fort Stadium in Dallas, Texas. And I think the big difference is, again, quarterback. Everyone talks about quarterback. But Eli Holstein, again, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,800 yards. Jennings for SMU, who's come in for Preston Stone, has looked really nice. He's a little more of that tall, lanky frame guy. But I like it. Pitt's defense swarming. You saw what they did against Syracuse last week. 3 pick sixes. I think it's going to be a defensive battle to some extent. SMU has a 70.1% on the predictor, on the matchup predictor. The spread opened at 7.5. It's at 7 right now for Pittsburgh and SMU. Don't think there's going to be any rain. There is some weather in Oklahoma, and that actually forced the kickoff time for the Oklahoma-Maine game. I can't believe I'm saying that. Oklahoma and Maine. And pushed that time up to 11 a.m. from 1:30 to 11 a.m. because of the threat of severe weather. I was like, ooh, that's terrible, man. That's terrible. But Pitt SMU comes down to quarterback play. Holstein needs to be, really special tonight. Tomorrow night. He needs to be special if they're going to try and get away with this victory. SMU, though, man, look at the schedule. Both teams undefeated in conference. Now, Pitt has only lost no games. They've lost no games. SMU has lost the one game. But you look at SMU, they lost to BYU. And at first you're like, oh, my God, you lost to BYU. BYU is still undefeated. But you look, Pitt, SMU, Miami, Clemson, all undefeated in the conference. Now, if you're SMU, you've got Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. That's what's left for them. Could they make it there? For Pitt, it's a little bit more dicey because they've got at SMU, Virginia, who they should beat, and then their final 3 is a pretty tough gauntlet. Clemson, at Louisville, and Boston College. A tough 3 games, if you ask me. It's a tough 3 games. I don't know if Pitt makes it through it. SMU, if they can get past Pitt, I think has a better chance of going undefeated the rest of the season, which it'd be great to see somebody throw this all up into the ACC and just see what happens when you go to tiebreakers and stuff, right? Tickets are still available for $23. You can find tickets for $23. I love it. And this real quick. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really concerned about Pitt making it through the rest of the way. We'll see how they continue to do, right? But I love what they're doing. They're a good football team. Pat Narduzzi has a good team. They play good football, but I think SMU it's hard to win a game on the road. So I like SMU in this game. The spread, SMU by 7. I'll probably take SMU in that, right? We talked about Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. We talked about Duke, Miami. Now, another one in the ACC that I think is an entertaining game. I think this Louisville versus Clemson game is a serious matchup. I think it's a serious matchup. I think it's a chance for Dabo to get shaken up. Clemson, since that Georgia game to start the year, Clemson has played exceptionally well. Cade Klubnik has proved me wrong. I thought Cade Klubnik was going to be the next DJ Uiagalelei, and he hasn't been. The spread in this one open at 11. It's at 10 now in favor of the Tigers, over under 62.5. That's a lot of points, but I think I'd take the points, the over in that one. I think they're going to score a lot of points. But Tyler Shuck, Cade Klubnik, 2 quarterbacks that are going to go at it. They're going to go at it. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, I think. Now, Clemson, you're sitting there at 5-0 in the ACC. They've got at Vatech, Pitt, and then they end with the South Carolina, wrap up, the Citadel and South Carolina. So they've only got, 3 games left in conference, and they could find themselves in the conference championship game. With how they looked at the beginning of the season, everyone was writing them off, right? Everyone's saying they're no good. Dabo isn't doing anything because of his lack of recruiting. It's going to be dangerous. But nope, he gets it done. I like what Louisville has a chance, but I think Clemson wins this game. The game that I'm most intrigued about, A&M, South Carolina. The Aggies go to Willie B, sandstorm. Everything's going to be going crazy. It's a night game. Marcel Reed should be playing. I've said that for the couple weeks now. Just not really sold on Connor Wegman. A&M comes in favored by 3. I would take South Carolina getting the points. Their defense it's something to behold, right? With Nick Emmanwori, who's phenomenal in the back end, right? Nick Emmanwori has been great, right? Then they've got Vanderbilt. That'll be interesting, especially for Vandy Chris and the college villains as Vanderbilt and South Carolina go on. But if you look at South Carolina, their defense, Nick Emmanwori, Debo Williams at linebacker. You got Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart. I mean, there's so many good players on that front 7. And then it's not just front 7. You got Nick Emmanwori, who's really, really, really good, right? He's really good. But this game, again, it's going to be at night. They're going to be amped up in South Carolina. They want to knock off top 10 team, give A&M their first SEC loss. A&M, the only undefeated team in the SEC right now. A lot of teams sitting there with 1 loss. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, and Tennessee, they're going to face off. What if you end with all these 2-loss teams? What if Bama beats LSU, wins out? Tennessee beats Georgia. Vanderbilt upsets. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Okay, but I think it's going to be a very entertaining football weekend. I like A&M. I think they're going to be. They're going to be in the game. I want to see what Marcel Reed can do with more playing time, especially if he's the one starting with his ability to escape the pocket. If Kennard and those guys are, they don't keep the rush lanes, but again, they're not the only ones that can make penetration and actually get to the quarterback. That whole defense can. Whole defense can. Quick update on the Boise State, the last team left from the group of 5. I think that has a chance to make it to the playoffs. They are up 7-0 on the Aztec, and Ashton Genty, 2 carries, only 16 yards. I'm sure he'll get his pretty soon. But yeah, a big slate of games. Here's my give them a 6 or 6 picks. Ohio State -3, Duke +20, South Carolina +3. I like Clemson -10, and I like Pitt +7.5. And I like Oregon -14.5. My lock is Pitt +7.5. That's what my lock is. 7-3 on locks this year, guys. So if you're dropping a unit down, 7-3 on the locks, that's where you need to go heavy. Because a lot of times it's coming in. That's where I'm getting it done. But before I wrap up everything, kind of a slow night tonight. But before I wrap everything up, I want to say a happy birthday to my sister. She's 44 today. And, seeing pictures of us when we were kids. That's why I'm doing the No Shave November. I had the beard growing. You saw I was trying to trim it up today, and I messed up like a dumbass. And so now I'm going to do the No Shave November. But, yeah, I hate it. I put the wrong guard on when I was trying to trim. I had to shave off. So we'll start the No Shave November. That helps raise money and awareness for colorectal cancer screenings, help. And with my sister being a childhood cancer survivor, some of the stuff that I saw her go through as a child, some of the stuff that we went through as siblings, the Cancer Society is very near and dear to my heart. So I want to see. I shaved my head. Look, the head's bald, face is clean, and I'm going to see in 1 month. I'll post pictures. We'll post updates on how the beard grows. For those who don't remember, you can go look on my social media pages. I had a beard once, or goatee, that was at least a foot long. At least a foot long. I look like one of the ZZ Top guys, right? Look like one of the ZZ Top guys. But again, just a happy birthday to her. She's down at Auburn this weekend, staying at the University Park, University Station, which, again, if you're ever going to be in the Auburn area going to a football game, go to University Station. It is phenomenal. Great people, great atmosphere, everything. Everything. It's great, right? But they got Vanderbilt this weekend. That's going to be tough. Oklahoma and Maine, I know a lot of people, I will say this. For Oklahoma, they're very happy that they got the SEC cupcake this week. They needed a little bounce back, a little positivity after losing 3 in a row, all 3 by double digits. So that doesn't happen very often in Norman. So the natives are restless, all right? The natives are restless in Norman. Run down the SEC: Ole Miss at Arkansas, Maine, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt at Auburn, Florida, Georgia. Now, that's a game I didn't talk about, but I missed 2 years of it because 94, 95, when I was stationed in Jacksonville in the Navy, they played at home and away, I think, while they were rebuilding Alltel Stadium. And so I missed seeing it 94, 95. But 96, 97, I was there to watch Florida, Georgia, because I worked security at the Alltel Stadium. Again, I just Georgia's the better team. It's a rivalry. We'll see. Massachusetts, Mississippi State. Hey, Mass comes up with a winning record right now compared to, I say winning. They have more wins than Mississippi State. Then you got Kentucky, Tennessee. What Kentucky team is going to show up? What Tennessee team is going to show up? They're wearing their dark matter uniforms, which if you hadn't seen what they did, like their uniform unveiling, kind of the symbiote kind of thing from Venom, it was awesome. It was awesome. I thought they did a great job. I love it. Love that Tennessee look. Other conferences, Big 12. Big 12 is going to be crazy this year. Texas Tech, Iowa State, That's a big game in Ames. Rocco Beck, trying to keep it up. Kansas State trying to keep up and set up that matchup at the end of the year against Iowa State. Kansas State goes to Houston, Arizona at Central Florida, Arizona State at Oklahoma State, TCU at Baylor. You look at the Big Ten. Talked about Ohio State, Penn State, Minnesota, the Illini, Northwestern, Purdue, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State. Curtis Works should be back. I mean, if Indiana goes 9-0, who's all coming after Signetti, right? Who's coming after him and going to throw him a large paycheck? UCLA at Nebraska used to be a really good game. Not anymore. Wisconsin, Iowa, the Heartland Trophy. I think Iowa's going with the All Blacks. I think I saw they were 6-0 in the All Blacks. USC at Washington, an old Pac-12 battle. But, guys, I appreciate everybody. I hope you've had an entertaining Friday. Don't forget, 8:30 is when the Golden Boot podcast will come on. George, Vandy, Chris, Cody, they do a great job, right? They do a fantastic job. And I just think you need to give everybody a shout out. Look at them. Dogs TV, follow them. We got a bunch of podcasts out there, a bunch of shows that you need to watch. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, starting at 8 o'clock, Taylor Arenz and myself will be hosting the College Football Dogs Game Day Show. We're going to break down a lot of games. We're going to go over the Maxwell Award watch list, all that stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, that's going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to get out of here early, enjoy some time with the family. I just want to say thank you for everything. And remember to always positively move forward, guys.
Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey through the world of sports and food on Sports Bytes. With your host, Chris Joseph. We hope you've enjoyed the game day stories and culinary adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any mouth-watering sports-related tales or favorite game day recipes, share them with us on social media. Until next time, remember, it's not just about the game. It's about the bites that make it unforgettable. Stay hungry for more Sports Bytes.